Hi everyone, welcome back to Red Channel. The topic of today's video is the BMW F900R 2025. For 2025, the F900R has undergone a series of updates aimed at positioning it more aggressively in a segment where performance also matters. Let's try to understand which ones. There are no major changes when it comes to the engine, which has of course been homologated Euro 5+. It's still the parallel twin built by Longinus with a 270-degree crankshaft producing 105 HP and 93 Nm of torque. The real novelty, however, lies in the redefinition of the throttle maps, especially the dynamic mapping, where BMW has sought greater aggressiveness and a quicker, more immediate throttle response. We'll see later if they've succeeded. The updates to the chassis are definitely more interesting though, because as far as the fork is concerned, we now have a new adjustable fork, and that was one of the limitations. A bit like the F900R, the previous model had a 43 mm adjustable fork in 3D, with separate adjustments for each leg, compression on the left side, rebound on the right, and preload both adjustable with tools. But above all, there is a weight reduction of 3 kilos, which might not sound like much, but if 1.8 kilogram of those 3 are safe from the wheels, well, then it really must be said that the handling has probably taken a step forward. Unlike the old F900R, which was a bit more of a roadster than a street fighter, in this case, we've moved more in the direction of a street fighter because the foot pegs have been slightly repositioned and the handlebar is a bit lower than before. The promised result is more weight on the front end. We are on the saddle of the F900R. Let's see what you find in front of you when you get on the new revamped BMW Roadster. Keyless ignition, still optional. Let's say the new feature at the controls is the new handlebar, which is lower than the previous one, and it puts more weight on your wrists. So the position is a bit more sporty, and the fork, as you can see now, is adjustable. You can adjust the preload and compression on the left fork leg on the left, preload and compression. On the right fork leg, preload and rebound. You still need tools, so a screwdriver is required to adjust the hydraulic functions. Here you can see that, am I in mapping mode? Let's say no, not mapping. And then there's the sport display, which is the one that shows you information like the lean angle, the traction control intervention level, and the braking in meters per second. A display that is truly satisfying from a sporty riding perspective. And this one here, instead, is the key natural viewing mode. There are 4 riding modes. As you can see, we have Rain, Road, Dynamic and Dynamic Pro. Dynamic Pro is freely configurable by the user when this bike is also equipped with Dynamic ESA, which, as you can see, allows you to adjust the hydraulics of the rear shock absorber automatically simply with a button, and also to adjust the spring preload by holding the button down for a long time, but only with the engine running, according to the different load modes. So rider only, rider and passenger, rider and luggage. This allows us, even if we want to have a bike with a little more weight on the front end, to play with the preload, so to speak, tricking the bike even if we're riding alone. But I have to say, after riding just a few meters with this bike, the chassis now works really well. Classic BMW cruise control joystick. In short, the equipment is really complete, I must say, and both levers are adjustable for reach. The calipers are Brembo, but the master cylinder is not. There's a quick shifter and the Dynamic Pro configuration. Obviously, you need to go into the configuration settings. Here they are, settings, vehicle, driving mode selection. Here you can see the check marks because we can turn the riding modes on or off, so you can have quicker access. But let's go and configure the Dynamic Pro mode. We turn it on, configure it, and here we can choose. In this case, we have the engine set to dynamic, so in its most aggressive mode, but we have 3 adjustment levels, road or rain. So 3 levels of adjustment. Traction control with 4 levels. So Dynamic Pro, Dynamic is something in road and rain. Let's set it back to Dynamic Pro. ABS with 3 levels. So we have ABS on the road, ABS in Dynamic and ABS in Dynamic Pro. So does Dynamic Pro allow you to lock the rear wheel? And then there's the reset button, which returns everything to factory settings. Here's how you can set everything up. If we go back to our main instrument panel, let's see how this works. F900. These are truly just first impressions of the F900, because the ride itself wasn't very long. But we'll revisit this bike because I have to say, with some targeted minor updates, it's managed to make a solid step forward, especially when it comes to riding dynamics. But I'll get back to that. I'll return to that point later. I'll start with the ergonomics because they've changed. There's more weight on the wrists. The handlebar has been modified, so you lean a bit more onto your wrists and the foot pegs are slightly lower and set further back. As you can see, the angle is fairly tight, but it's nothing too extreme. What bothers me the most though is that when I ride on my toes, let's say, this bulge here on the passenger foot pegs ends up touching my boots. But honestly, it's a position that really confirms BMW wanted to make this bike sportier. There's more weight on your wrists. Again, it's a riding position that's a bit more like a street fighter and a bit less like a roadster as the previous F900 was. So you really have a slightly more aggressive stance. Maybe it's something that over time can be a bit more tiring compared to the previous one, but overall I have to say that I prefer this position to the previous one. The tail section has also been modified a bit, making it a little sportier. The seat is 815 mm from the ground, and you can reach the ground easily because the in-seam arch is fairly narrow. So overall, it's a very accessible bike, which I remind you, if you have, let's say, issues with height, it can really be a bike that suits you because it can be ordered with a lowered setup and a lowered seat. And in that case, the seat is only 760 millimeters from the ground, practically like a custom bike. Let's say, in general, the bike has a sportier attitude, especially thanks to the fork, which, well, was a bit of a weak point. We've mentioned it several times during tests, even during comparisons with the F900R, because this bike has ESA at the rear. So from the dashboard, you can easily adjust the rear damping, that is the hydraulic setup, in two modes, road and dynamic. So even the road mode is already quite firm, and dynamic mode even more so in my opinion, maybe even a bit too much. And then you can also adjust the spring preload according to the load. So rider with luggage, or rider and passenger. However, once you did this, the previous fork, which wasn't adjustable, let's say, didn't really keep up with the adjustments you wanted to make to the rear shock. But with the new fork, which is adjustable with tools, you use a screwdriver to adjust compression and rebound. And for the preload, you need a wrench. It doesn't have the knobs like the F900 GS or even the F900 XR. I have to say the setup has achieved a much better balance. Even with the ESA set to road mode, the fork remains nicely firm. Let's say the bike is generally set up to be quite firm. Overall, the fork still reacts a bit quickly at the start, but in the initial part of the suspension travel, it stays fairly comfortable. When you apply the brakes, the fork's compression is well controlled and progressive, which wasn't quite the case before. So we're dealing with a standard setup here, and you can fine-tune it with clicks or turns of the compression, rebound, and preload adjusters. Let's say that on one fork leg you adjust the compression, on the other the rebound, and of course preload is adjustable on both legs. So you can set up the F900R in an even more aggressive configuration if you want. In certain situations, I'd actually like it to be a bit softer. Right now, I haven't managed to adjust anything on this run, but I'd like to open it up a little more because when I get towards the end of the travel, it stays a bit stiff and I'd like it to go all the way down as if there's a bit too much oil inside. But in my opinion, this can be fixed with the adjustments because then on the fast sections, the fork actually works really well. So it has a nice progression. Yes, at first it tends to dive a bit quickly, but all in all, I have to say that now it holds up well, even with the shock. In dynamic mode, which as I said is maybe just a bit too stiff, but let's say that now to stay true to the slightly more street fighter attitude of this F900R, the suspension is spot on. You also find greater sportiness in the engine, which, well, let's say basically remains the same. I'd like to remind you that the engine is built under license by Lonson. Here too, we've always said it's an engine that works well, but it's always missing a bit of character, a little more punch. Well, now it has it, especially in dynamic mode, the throttle response. But I had already noticed this last year when we tested the F900 GS that the engine seemed to have become livelier. The throttle response is indeed more lively, and especially in dynamic mode, you finally get a bit of that, grit that we like to see on a bike like this. I mean, we need to have a nice response, not aggressive. Never out of place, but quick, with a good connection. There's a slight bit of play in the transmission. So when you open and close the throttle, it's nothing bothersome. And I should mention there are some vibrations that come through the handlebars and foot pegs once you go over 6,500 RPM. But let's say that on the road, you can usually stay below, almost always below this RPM range. The gearbox, which is a bit of a classic BMW trait, is fairly stiff, especially when downshifting. It's not always easy to tell when you've engaged the gear. However, I have to say that overall the quick shifter actually works quite well. I'll finish by talking about, the bike's handling. Well, it's a combination of things: a better fork, a slightly more forward-leaning riding position, and above all, wheels that are almost 2 kilograms lighter. From this point of view, the bike's dynamics have really improved, and you can tell that BMW wants to position it in a more sporty way from the stock tires, which in the case of the bike I have here are the Diablo Rosso 4. So it's a bike that aims to place itself in a slightly sportier segment than before, kind of going to compete, if you will, with the likes of the Zone 1000 and MT9. Now, that's a game the BMW F900R can definitely play. It can do so because the starting price is really very competitive, and of course, with the option packages, the price goes up. I strongly recommend these packages because the dynamic ESA is excellent, and the comfort package with heated grips was really useful for us today. And yet, let's say the price doesn't skyrocket, so it remains competitive in the mid-size naked segment, which it's now aiming to compete in with a character that I think it was somewhat lacking before. And the instrumentation is still the usual BMW setup, very user-friendly, always well-connected and highly visible. In this respect, I don't think BMW has anything to learn from anyone. And even the aesthetics, as you can see, have become a bit more aggressive. So now, in short, the F900 is back in the game. That's more or less what I noted down here from my very first test ride, my very first contact with the outskirts of Rome. I'll be waiting for you down in the comments if you want to ask me anything. I have to say that I found a bike that has finally found its own balance, which maybe was missing a bit before, a balance and a character of its own. I'll be waiting for you down in the comments. See you in the next video.